Yan Liang, Wen Chou, and Shen Pei. These three military generals of Yuan Shao's were prominent fighters who spent most of their recorded life battling against the forces of Cao Cao. It was once said that Shen Pei was strong of will but without tact. By the time Yan Liang and Wen Chou became the focus of any attention, they had both made their names as fierce warriors who were celebrated for their bravery by some, but not others. It's not known where or when these two were born, but Shen Pei was from Yinan County in Wei Commandery. He started his career under Houhanshu, where he became known for being stern and upright, but insensitive and tactless. This prevented him from making any significant achievements. When Yuan Shao incited his ally Gong Xunzan to invade Houhanshu, he was able to seize Ji province from under them. Houhanshu's fear of being killed or captured made him relinquish his governorship title over to Yuan. It's at this time that Shen Pei came to serve under Yuan Shao. In the coming years, Yuan had been urged to attack Cao Cao whilst he was still building up his strength, but he ignored his advisor's advice at that time. Then later, despite objections from his cavalry commander Sui Yan, Yuan Shao decided to attack Cao after he had already defeated Lu Bu and brought the emperor to Shu City. The people of Shu City became afraid when they heard of the coming invasion, and so Kongrong went to speak with Shun Yu. Yuan Shao's lands are broad and his troops are strong. Tian Feng and Xu Yu are wise men to plan for him. Shen Pei and Pang Ji are loyal ministers acting in his affairs. Yan Liang and Wen Chou are brave generals in command of his troops. Here are serious problems. Sun Yu had the opposite opinion and was far less impressed. Yuan Shao has many soldiers, but his government is not well ordered. Tian Feng is stubborn and insubordinate. Zhu Yu is greedy and ill-disciplined. Shen Pei is self-opinionated and lacks original ideas. Pang Ji is too adventurous and independent. People like that find it hard to cooperate, and they'll certainly disrupt his councils. Yan Liang and Wen Chou have the bravery of common fellows. One battle will be enough to deal with them. For the invasion against Cao Cao, Shen Pei was put in control of the overall coordination and the mobilization of the troops. During this time, he had caught some of Xu Yu's family members committing crimes, so had them arrested and then reported it to Yuan Shao. Xu Yu feared what might happen to him and so fled to defect over to Cao Cao. Zhu Xu warned Yuan Shao that Yan Liang is careless and impatient. He is brave, but he cannot manage alone. Yuan sent him anyway to lead the attack against Liu Yan at Dong Commandery, but more senior members like Guo Tu and Shun Yu Xiong were also sent. When Tao headed north to assist in the defense of Dong Commandery, he was advised by Shun Yu, "Our soldiers are too few to match the enemy. In order to win, you must divide our opponent's strength. When you come to the Yan crossing, pretend to send men across the river against his rear. Yuan Shao will certainly turn west to deal with them. If you then send light troops to Baima and surprise the enemy there, Yan Liang can be taken." This plan was successfully executed, which distracted Yuan Shao's main force. When he saw the incoming enemy, Yan Liang became startled and then came out from his ranks to fight. Zhang Liao and Guan Yu led the vanguard, and the latter soon recognized Yan Liang's standard in the distance. Whipping his horse, he broke through among the 10,000 men of his enemy, took the head of Yan Liang and came back. No one could withstand him, and so the siege of Baima was lifted, whereafter many local people and baggage moved west. Yuan Shao then led his army across the Yellow River in pursuit of his enemy against the advice of Zhu Xu. When you're fighting a war, you must be careful to think of every possibility. The best plan now is to stay in camp at the Yan crossing and send an advance guard towards Guandu. If they can capture the place, you will still have time to join up with them. If, however, you go forward now and something goes wrong, none of the army will be able to get back. Yuan ignored this advice as well, before sending his cavalry commanders Wen Chou and Liu Bei with 5,000 or 6,000 horsemen to spearhead the pursuit. The first report from the scouts to Tao read, some 500 or 600 horsemen. The second one said, horsemen gradually increasing, too many foot soldiers to count. No more reports, ordered Tao. He led his men atop a knoll and had his cavalry dismount to let the horses run wild. All the while the baggage from Baima was still on the road. The soldiers became worried and thought it might be better to defend the main camp. Then Shun Yu said, "This is a trap for the enemy, how can we leave?" Tao looked at him and smiled. Wen Chou and Liu Bei came together with their 5,000 or 6,000 horsemen, and the soldiers again began to worry. They wanted to mount, but Tao said not yet. The incoming cavalry force split and broke ranks, with some going for the baggage and some going for the horses. At Tao's command, his elite cavalry remounted and then charged with speed. Even though their force was much smaller, they completely defeated their enemy, while Wen Chou's head was taken in the process. In official recordings, he was killed by unnamed soldiers, but secondary sources written after the period attribute Guan Yu as the one who killed Wen Chou. Yan Liang and Wen Chou were two of Yuan's most celebrated captains. In 2 quick engagements, they had both been killed, which greatly demoralized the soldiers. To turn the tide even further to his favor, Tao took the advice of Xu Yu by attacking the enemy supply depot at Wu Chao. This consequently led to Yuan Shao's ultimate defeat at the Battle of Guandu, during which 2 of Shen Pei's sons were captured. Rumors started to spread that Shen Pei was going to betray the Yuans, but Pang Ji spoke up in Shen's defense. As a result, they both became good friends. Yuan Shao passed away 2 years later. Guo Jia suggested that the Yuan brothers would fight between themselves in the absence of an external enemy, and so Tao withdrew his forces to turn his attention to Jing province. Yuan Shao earlier wanted to assign his youngest son Yuan Shang as his successor, but never made it official. When Yuan Tan and Shang started fighting over the succession, Xin Ping and Guo Tu supported Tan, whilst Shen Pei and Pang Ji supported Shang. They forged a will in Yuan Shao's name, which made Shang the new governor of Xi province. 2 years later, in 204, the aggravation between the Yuans had deteriorated to violence. A battle broke out which Tan lost before he fled to Ping Yuan. Shang pursued him and began to lay siege to the city. Tao took the opportunity to broker an alliance with Yuan Tan when Xin Ping's brother Xin Pei arrived seeking aid. Tao led forces to attack Yi City, which was being defended by Shen Pei, whilst also preventing Shang from being able to come back to help. As Tao marched north, Shen Pei discovered a scheme by Su Yu, who planned to rebel and defect over to him. Su fled the city when his ruse was found out. In the coming months, Shen Pei vigorously defended the city against Tao Hong, who was left in charge whilst Cao Cao marched east. When Tao returned, the invaders dug tunnels under the walls, but Shen countered them with trenches within the city. He also dealt with wavering loyalty amongst his ranks when Feng Li opened a sally port to let the enemy in. Around 300 men were killed or injured when Shen Pei ordered boulders to be dropped, which blocked off the way in. A few weeks later, Shen Pei laughed when he saw the tunnels had been replaced by a shallow moat, which was shallow enough to walk across, so he paid no attention to it. But by the next morning, it had been dug 20 feet wide and 20 feet deep, allowing it to draw water from 2 nearby rivers and a marsh. The city became isolated, and by the beginning of autumn, it was said that more than half the populace had died of starvation. Shen Pei would have become aware of Li Fu, who was making a dash for the city walls. He was Yuan Shang's registrar, who had been sent to inform them that reinforcements were on their way. The ecstatic defenders drew Li Fu up the walls by rope and rejoiced over his stealthy exploits in getting past Cao Cao's men. He was to relay Yi's situation back to Shang, but knew that he couldn't leave in the same way that he entered. Under Li Fu's guidance, Shen Pei gathered several thousand of the old and weak who were sent out the city through 3 gates, with white flags signalling their surrender. This not only saved them on food, but also allowed Li Fu to blend in, where he escaped after he followed them through the north gate. Cao Cao clapped his hands and laughed when he heard that Li Fu was gone. As Li Fu's infiltration had caused quite the ruckus, Tao was already prepared for the enemy reinforcements. Shen Pei communicated with Shang's army with torches, then in accordance with their plan, launched a joint attack against Cao Cao. They were both defeated, however, with Shang fleeing the battlefield and Shen Pei being driven back inside the city. Shen Pei remained defiant till the very end. When Tao's victories were boasted about to the defenders on the wall, their morale plummeted, but Shen Pei insisted that his other brother Yuan Shi would soon arrive, and so Yuan Shang's defeat was not an issue. On another occasion, Shen ordered his crossbowmen to fire at Tao, where the bolts narrowly missed him. A few nights later, his nephew Shen Rong betrayed the city by opening the eastern gate. As Cao Cao's troops poured into the city, Shen Pei ordered the execution of Xin Pei's family, whom he considered traitorous and responsible for the downfall of the Yuan family. Shen joined his men fighting at the city gates, but they were soon pushed back to the city proper. The fighting continued in the streets for a while, where one account claims Shen Pei hid in a well when all seemed lost. Pei Songzhi doubts the credibility of this claim, as do I. On the one hand, Shen Pei was clearly brave as he faced his execution with honour, but on the other hand, he might have also thought if he could avoid his execution, there still might be a chance to redeem the Yuan family. Whatever the case, after dragging on for more than half a year, the siege of Yi was over, whereafter Shen Pei was captured. He rebuked those who had surrendered earlier, and cursed the crossbow bolts that missed their target. Tao was impressed by his fierce loyalty and wanted to spare him, but Shen Pei and others begged for his execution, and so Shen Pei was to be beheaded. On the execution grounds, he asked to be allowed to face north, since his lord Yuan Shang was in that direction. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.